In sales, the biggest problem isn't closing, it's opening. In Fanatical Prospecting, Jeb Blount reveals the secret weapon of top performers: relentless, disciplined prospecting. This isn't about gimmicks or shortcuts. It's about building a consistent pipeline by leveraging every tool at your disposal. Social selling, cold calling, email, text, and more. In this video from Detailed Book Summaries, we break down the key lessons from Blount's ultimate guide to filling your pipeline, starting more conversations, and crushing your sales targets. If you want to outwork, outsmart, and outsell your competition, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the strategies that turn average reps into superstars. Chapter 1: Why Salespeople Fail. The brutal truth? Most salespeople suck at prospecting. And no, it's not because they're incapable. It's because they won't do it. Prospecting is uncomfortable. It's hard. It slams you up against the wall of rejection. It forces you to get real with your excuses. That's why so many salespeople dance around it, avoid it, and justify their inaction with a dozen polished lies. They say things like, "I'm waiting on better leads," or "marketing didn't do their job," or "I'm still updating the CRM." All noise. All delay tactics. What Jeb Blount wants you to understand, what he shouts in this opening chapter, is that if your pipeline is empty, it's your fault. End of story. Here's the core of it all: sales is simple math. You need prospects in your pipeline. A full pipeline gives you confidence, leverage, momentum. Without it, you're desperate. And desperation smells. It ruins calls. It kills deals. It makes you cling to maybes and chase ghosts. And yet, time and time again, salespeople fall into what Jeb calls the prospecting paradox. You see, when your pipeline is full and things are rolling, prospecting gets pushed to the side. You feel good. You're riding high. You convince yourself you've earned a break. But once those deals close and no new opportunities are coming in, you start scrambling. Panic sets in. You're right back to square one, staring at an empty calendar and an empty inbox. It's a cycle of self-sabotage. And if that sounds like you, then here's the wake-up call. Fanatical prospectors never stop. They treat pipeline building as a daily discipline. It's not a one-time sprint. It's not a quarterly panic button. It's the heartbeat of their sales game day in, day out. Jeb lays down a hard truth called the 30-day rule. Whatever prospecting you do in this 30-day window, you'll see the results of it in your income 90 days later. Not next week. Not tomorrow. 90 days. That means the paycheck you're about to cry over next quarter? It was determined by what you're doing right now, or what you're not doing. This isn't optional. It's not a productivity tip. It's a law. Consistency is king. If you're inconsistent with your prospecting, your pipeline will be inconsistent, and so will your revenue. It's not your company. It's not your territory. It's not the economy. If you're not prospecting, you're not selling. Period. Jeb doesn't just point fingers, he hands you a mirror. Why do salespeople really fail? Because they stop doing the one thing that leads to results. They chase shiny objects. They spend hours tweaking email templates, fiddling with automation, reading sales blogs. But they're not talking to new people. They're not dialing. They're not reaching out. And if you're not starting new conversations, you're not creating new opportunities. No sales strategy in the world will save you from an empty calendar. And this is where the fanatical prospectors rise above the pack. They're not the smartest in the room. They don't always have the best product knowledge or the most polished pitch. But what they do have: relentless drive, relentless action, relentless contact. They make the calls when others are busy organizing their inbox. They send the messages when others are over-prepping. They don't wait. They hunt. They know that activity equals income, that more conversations lead to more sales. And they don't need a motivational quote to get started, they just start. Sales is a contact sport. If you're not in front of people by phone, email, text, or face-to-face, you're invisible. You don't exist. And the market doesn't reward ghosts. It rewards grinders. Let this one sink in. The number one reason for failure in sales is an empty pipeline. And the root cause of an empty pipeline? A failure to prospect consistently. That's it. That's the whole game. Chapter 1 isn't here to pat you on the back. It's here to slap the laziness out of your process. It's here to remind you that success in sales isn't about luck. It's about effort. It's about the hours you put in when no one's watching. It's about doing what's uncomfortable every single day. You don't rise to the top because you got hot. You rise because you refuse to let your pipeline dry up. And if you want to win, you don't wait for leads. You go out and get them. So if you're serious about sales, stop whining, stop hiding behind admin tasks, and stop making excuses. Pick up the phone. Send the email. Knock on the door. Just get moving. Because fanatical prospecting isn't a technique. It's a way of life. Chapter 2. The 7 Mindsets of Fanatical Prospectors. There's something electric about the way top salespeople move. They're not lucky. They're not born into better territories. They don't have secret scripts or magic tech. What they do have is a mindset, a way of thinking, of approaching their day, of attacking their pipeline with the intensity of someone who refuses to be average. Jeb Blount makes it clear in Chapter 2 that fanatical prospecting is not just about what you do. It's about how you think before you do it. Your mindset is the engine. And without it running at full throttle, the techniques don't matter. You'll stall out. The first mindset that drives these people is optimism. Real, gritty optimism, not blind positivity, but the belief that good outcomes are possible and worth chasing. Fanatical prospectors walk into every conversation expecting something good to happen. They're not discouraged by rejection because they expect that the next dial might be the one. They believe the work will pay off. This belief shows in how they speak, how they write, how they pitch. It's magnetic. People respond to it. If you assume people won't pick up, they won't. But if you believe they will, you'll keep dialing. Optimism feeds action, and action fuels results. Then comes competitiveness. The fanatical pros? They're in it to win. They hate losing. They're not content with second place, and they don't need someone to challenge them. They challenge themselves. Every dial is a race. Every appointment booked is a trophy. While other reps are comfortable, these people are sharpening their edge. They don't coast. They sprint. They track their numbers not because their manager asks them to, but because they want to beat their personal best. There's a fire in them that never quite goes out. They don't want to just make quota, they want to bury it. Confidence is next, not arrogance but deep, unshakable self-trust. Fanatical prospectors believe they belong in every room. They don't get rattled by objections, ghosting, or rudeness. They know rejection is part of the game, and it doesn't bruise their ego. Confidence allows them to keep showing up. It gives them the courage to push past gatekeepers and ask better questions. And it's not something they're born with. It's built through repetition. Through calls that go sideways and deals that fall apart, and still waking up the next day ready to dial again. Confidence is what keeps their voice steady when the conversation gets tough. But none of that matters without relentlessness. That's the 4th mindset. Fanatical prospectors don't pause when things get hard, they push harder. They're the ones making calls at 8 a.m. while others are still sipping coffee. They're sending emails at 6 p.m. while the average rep is already packing up. They don't need to be told to hustle, they live in hustle. Even when it's quiet, even when it's rough. Especially then. They don't rely on feeling motivated. They rely on discipline. That's why they're always ahead. Not because they get lucky, but because they never stop moving. And they don't just work harder, they work smarter. Fanatical prospectors have a thirst for knowledge. They're obsessed with learning about people, about what works, about themselves. They don't think they've mastered it all. They test new subject lines. They listen to their own calls. They study body language. They're always tweaking and refining. They believe there's always a better way to reach someone, a sharper way to deliver a message, a more human way to break through. While others complain that the market is changing, fanatical prospectors adapt fast because they're paying attention, because they want to improve. That learning is supported by structure. These people aren't just winging it. The 6th mindset is a systematic approach. They time block. They track their KPIs. They plan their dials, their emails, their follow-ups. Their calendars are weapons, not wish lists. They build a daily rhythm that creates output, even on bad days. While the average rep is reactive, waiting for something to happen, fanatical prospectors are proactive. They know exactly what actions lead to results, and they repeat them over and over. They make prospecting a process, one that works even when they're tired, even when motivation fades, even when things don't go as planned. But none of it holds together without emotional control. That's the final mindset, and maybe the most important one. Fanatical prospectors don't melt down after a bad call. They don't spiral when someone tells them to never call again. They don't let emotions run the show. They operate with composure. They understand that emotional swings are dangerous in sales. One bad moment can ruin a whole day if you let it. So they don't let it. They reset. They move on. They manage their energy. They stay focused on what they can control, their actions, their effort, and their attitude. When you stack these 7 mindsets, optimism, competitiveness, confidence, relentlessness, hunger for knowledge, structure, and emotional control, you get something powerful. You get a seller who's impossible to stop. Someone who fills the pipeline while everyone else makes excuses. Someone who's prepared for the long game. Jeb makes one thing clear in this chapter. You can't fake this. You can't cheat it. You have to build these mindsets, brick by brick, through the daily grind, through the hard calls and the long days and the dry weeks. That's how fanatical prospectors are made. They're not born. They're built in the fire. The good news? You can start today. Audit yourself. Ask, where are you weak? Where are you strong? What needs tightening? Because it doesn't matter how great your script is or how flashy your CRM looks. If your mind isn't right, your pipeline won't be either. So get your mind right. Think like a winner. Move like a professional. Show up with fire. And stay consistent, because the mindset drives the action. And the action? That's what drives everything else. Chapter 3: Time is the enemy. If you ask the average salesperson why they don't prospect more, they'll give you the same tired excuse. I don't have time. And Jeb Blount doesn't just disagree. He flat out calls it a lie. A dangerous, self-sabotaging lie. Because here's the truth. Time isn't the problem. Time is the scapegoat. The problem is how salespeople choose to use it or waste it. Time is the enemy of every salesperson. The longer you put off prospecting, the more your pipeline dries up. And once that pipeline dries up, you don't just lose deals, you lose momentum. You lose confidence. You start chasing bad leads and clinging to maybe deals that were dead on arrival. All because you didn't carve out time to feed the top of your funnel when it mattered. Here's the brutal reality Jeb drops in this chapter. You can't close what you don't start. And you don't start anything if you're not making time for prospecting. Now let's stop pretending salespeople are overwhelmed. Are they busy? Sure. Everyone's busy. But let's be honest, what exactly are they busy doing? Updating the CRM? Rearranging their desk? Clicking around in their inbox? Perfecting a pitch deck that no one even asked for? Most reps confuse being active with being productive. They fill the day with noise, tasks, admin work, comfortable things. And meanwhile, their pipeline sits there starving. The top 1% of salespeople, those fanatical prospectors Jeb keeps talking about, they don't fall into that trap. They understand that if you don't control your time will control you. So they attack it. They protect it. They treat prospecting like an immovable appointment on their calendar. Non-negotiable. Sacred. Because they know that's where the money is. And that's why time blocking becomes their superpower. Fanatical prospectors don't prospect when they have time. They make time. They schedule it like a meeting with their most important client. Every day without fail, they carve out specific blocks of time. An hour here, 90 minutes there, where they do nothing else but prospect. No emails. No texts. No Slack. No scrolling. Just dials, conversations, outreach. That's it. They understand that the best hours for outreach are early in the morning, before the day gets hijacked by distractions and everyone else's agenda. And they guard that time with everything they've got. No multitasking. No, I'll get to it later. Because later never comes. The average rep, on the other hand, lets their calendar get hijacked. A client needs something minor? They jump. Their manager pings them on Slack? They drop what they're doing. They let everyone else run their schedule. And every time they skip a prospecting block, they tell themselves it's okay. They'll just make it up tomorrow. But they don't. They rarely do. And then a month goes by, and they're wondering why the deals have stopped showing up. Fanatical prospectors never put themselves in that position. They live by the 30-day rule. Whatever you do in this 30-day window, especially prospecting, you'll see the results of it 60 to 90 days later. If you slack now, you suffer later. If you grind now, you feast later. It's simple. It's predictable, but it requires discipline. And time isn't just about the clock, it's about energy. Jeb makes it clear. You only get so much creative, emotional, and psychological energy per day. So where are you spending it? On tasks that make you feel busy? Or on activities that actually drive revenue? Fanatical prospectors spend their best energy, those peak mental hours, on prospecting. Because that's the work that matters most. Everything else can wait. The key is eliminating the illusion of productivity. You're not doing your job just because you answered some emails or sat through a Zoom call. You're doing your job when you create conversations with potential buyers, when you open new opportunities, when you prospect. So let's kill the myth right here, right now. You do have time. You've always had time. You just haven't prioritized it. You haven't respected it. You've let distractions creep in. You've let your comfort zone dictate your calendar. But if you want to win, you have to flip that script. You have to start treating prospecting like the most important part of your day, because it is. Jeb puts it bluntly, salespeople fail not because they don't know how to prospect, but because they don't make time to do it. Or worse, they give that time away to everything else. But that ends here. You want a pipeline that keeps you confident and commissions that keep you fed? You want to stop having that cold sweat moment at the end of the month when you realize you've got nothing coming in? Then start owning your time. Start blocking your calendar. Start prospecting like your career depends on it, because it does. Time is the enemy, but it's also the tool. Use it right and you win. Waste it, and you won't even see the fall coming until it's already too late. Chapter 4. The 4 Objectives of Prospecting. If you think prospecting is just about getting a sale, you've already missed the point. In Chapter 4, Jeb Blount breaks it down clearly. The purpose of prospecting isn't to close a deal, it's to open the door. That's where most salespeople get it wrong. They aim for the finish line when they haven't even started the race. Prospecting isn't selling. It's not pitching. It's not persuading someone to buy. It's about grabbing attention, creating a spark of interest, and setting the stage for a sales conversation. That's it. Jeb lays out 4 crystal-clear objectives that sit at the heart of every prospecting effort. Miss them and you're just spinning your wheels. Hit them and you build a pipeline that never runs dry. The first objective is to set an appointment. Sounds basic, but it's everything. You're not dialing to check in or touch base. You're not calling to say, "Hey, just wondering if you had a few minutes." No, you're making contact to lock in a time on the calendar for a real conversation about their business needs. Fanatical prospectors know this is the win. The appointment is the beginning of everything else. That's where you start moving the needle. Until you get it, you're not in the game. And here's what separates pros from amateurs. Fanatical prospectors don't wing this. They ask for the meeting directly with confidence. Let's get 20 minutes on your calendar to see if we might be a fit. Not desperate. Not pushy. Just clear and firm. They know that when you hesitate, prospects retreat. But when you take the lead, they follow. Now, sometimes you won't land the appointment. That's real. And when that happens, your second objective kicks in, to gather information. Every prospecting touchpoint should leave you smarter than you were 5 minutes ago. What's their current situation? Who's the real decision maker? What tools are they using? What challenges are they dealing with right now? Fanatical prospectors treat every call, every message, as a chance to gather intelligence. This is about future leverage. The more you know, the stronger your follow-up, the sharper your message, the more relevant you become. But this requires listening. Real listening. Not just waiting for your turn to talk. Fanatical prospectors ask open-ended questions. They're curious. They dig. They stay alert for buying signals, frustrations, objections, anything that tells them where this lead fits in their pipeline. And even when the call ends without a yes, it's still a win if they've learned something valuable. The third objective is to qualify. Just because someone takes your call doesn't mean they belong in your pipeline. That's a brutal lesson some reps learn the hard way, wasting hours on interested people who were never going to buy. Fanatical prospectors protect their time by qualifying fast. Are they the right fit? Do they have a budget? Do they make decisions? Is there real pain? Real urgency? If the answers are no, they move on. No hard feelings. No dragging a dead lead along for 2 months. Because weak pipelines are full of people who should have been disqualified weeks ago. Jeb makes it clear, qualifying isn't being harsh. It's being honest. With yourself and with the prospect. It's about investing your energy where it counts. Fanatical prospectors aren't chasing ghosts. They're talking to the right people at the right time for the right reasons. And the fourth objective, the one that too many reps forget, is to close the file. Yes, you heard that right. Sometimes your job in a prospecting conversation is to shut it down, to stop following up, to move on decisively. Why? Because indecision kills momentum. Unresponsive leads clog up your list. Chasing people who've clearly ghosted you drains your time, energy, and focus. Fanatical prospectors don't cling. If someone isn't engaging, if they've gone dark after multiple attempts, or if they're clearly not a fit, they close the file and move on to the next. That doesn't mean being rude or burning bridges. It means being professional, clear, and efficient. You can always come back later. But you're not going to sit around hoping. You're not going to send another just checking an email. Fanatical prospectors don't beg. They hunt. So let's run it back. Every prospecting activity, whether it's a cold call, a LinkedIn message, an email, or a drop-in, is aimed at one or more of these four outcomes. Set the appointment, gather intel, qualify the lead, or close the file. That's the rhythm. That's the discipline. That's what keeps your pipeline tight, clean, and profitable. Jeb drives this point home. If you don't know your objective going into the call, you'll fumble. You'll hesitate. You'll start rambling. But when you go in clear, confident, and outcome-focused, everything changes. You sound sharper. You move with intent. And prospects respond to that energy. That's what fanatical prospecting is about. Not just making more calls, but making calls that mean something. Calls that move the game forward. Calls that serve a clear purpose. So the next time you pick up the phone, ask yourself, what's the objective here? Am I aiming for a meeting? Am I gathering information? Am I qualifying this lead? Or am I here to close the file? And if you can't answer that question, don't dial. Get focus first. Because in sales, vague action leads to vague results. But precise action, that leads to closed deals and a bulletproof pipeline. Chapter 5. The Law of Replacement. There's a rule in sales that no one escapes. Not the rookies, not the rainmakers, not the smoothest closers in the room. Jeb Blount calls it the law of replacement, and it might be the most unforgiving truth in all of prospecting. Here it is, plain and simple. No matter how good you are, no matter how hot your pipeline is today, deals fall through. Prospects vanish. People ghost. Budgets get slashed. Timelines stretch out. The only way to keep winning is to keep replacing. Fanatical prospectors live by this law. They don't take time off from building their pipeline just because they've got a few strong deals in play. They don't slow down when they think they're close to hitting quota. Why? Because they've seen the collapse. They've seen the deal that looked like a sure thing suddenly go cold. They've learned, sometimes the hard way, that you can't control the outcome. You can only control your input. And that input has to be consistent. Always. The law of replacement demands that you constantly feed the top of your funnel. You can't stop. You can't pause. Because when you do, the pipeline drains. And once it's empty, you're done. There's nothing left to close. You're scrambling. You're desperate. You start chasing trash leads just to stay alive. And your confidence? Gone. But here's what the best reps know. Prospecting is like a muscle. You either work it every day or it atrophies. When you're consistent, when you replace every lead that leaves your pipeline with another one, you create momentum. You build a system that keeps producing. It becomes predictable. You always have people to call, opportunities to work, deals to move forward. And that's the real difference. Average salespeople work in spurts. They prospect like crazy when their pipeline is empty. But the second they land a few good meetings, they stop. They coast. They tell themselves they need to focus on closing. And before they know it, their calendar's empty again. They're back at zero. Fanatical prospectors? They don't ride that roller coaster. They work the pipeline like farmers. Steady, disciplined, methodical. Planting seeds. Pulling weeds. Harvesting when it's time. But always sowing for the next round. Because they understand. If you're not replacing, you're dying. The law of replacement applies to every deal stage. Lose a prospect? Replace it. Close a deal? Replace it. Move someone to the proposal stage? Replace it. It's not emotional. It's just math. You can't let the pipeline shrink, not even for a day, because your sales success 60 days from now depends on what you're doing today. Jeb breaks this down like clockwork. Let's say your close rate is 1 out of 10. That means for every deal you want to close, you need 10 solid prospects. So if you're aiming to close 5 deals next month, you'd better have 50 qualified prospects in motion right now. And as each one closes or dies, it has to be replaced instantly. No gap, no break, no wishful thinking. And here's where the trap happens. The ego gets involved. You get cocky. You've got some big proposals out and you feel like you've earned a break from prospecting. You tell yourself it's time to work smart, not hard. And before you know it, your calendar's empty, your pipeline's flat, and your sales manager is breathing down your neck. The law of replacement is immune to your feelings. It doesn't care how busy you are, how great last quarter was, or how tired you feel. Just keeps ticking. The reps who respect it, they win. The ones who ignore it, they panic later. But here's the good news. You don't need a heroic effort to stay ahead. You just need consistency, a system, a commitment to daily activity. Make it automatic. A set number of calls, a block of time carved out, a rhythm that never stops. Fanatical prospectors don't rely on motivation. They rely on structure. That's how they win. And when it gets hard, because it will get hard, you remind yourself. Every dial, every email, every touch is a seed. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one of those seeds will turn into revenue. But only if you keep planting. Only if you keep replacing. So here's the punch-in-the-gut reality Jeb delivers in this chapter. If you don't have a system for replacing your pipeline every day, then you don't have a system for success. You have a gamble, a hope. And hope is not a strategy. The question isn't if deals will fall through. They will. The question is, what will you have in place when they do? And the answer better be more prospects, more conversations, more opportunities. Because when your pipeline is full, you're powerful. You're in control. You can walk away from bad deals. You can hold your price. You don't beg. You don't discount just to survive. Fanatical prospectors don't fear the law of replacement. They use it. They live it. And that's why they win month after month, year after year. Chapter 6. The more you prospect, the luckier you get. Some people think top performers are just lucky. Right place, right time. Right lead. Right moment. But Jeb Blount tears that myth apart. In Chapter 6, he drills in one of the rawest truths of the entire book. There's no such thing as sales luck, only sales activity. The people who seem lucky, they're just the ones who prospect more than everyone else. Period. The salesperson who always stumbles into golden opportunities, they didn't get there by chance. They got there by grinding, by dialing, by showing up early and staying late, by being relentless. They don't just have good timing. They've earned that timing through massive, consistent effort. This chapter is a gut check. Jeb doesn't sugarcoat it. He says flat out, luck in sales is a myth. It's a fairy tale told by people who don't want to prospect. Because when you put in the reps, when you make the calls, when you send the emails and knock on the doors, you dramatically increase your chances of being in the right place at the right time. That's not luck. That's math. Here's what fanatical prospectors understand that everyone else misses. Prospecting is a volume game. Not every call is going to land. Not every lead is going to convert. Most won't. And that's okay. That's expected. But the more lines you cast, the more fish you catch. The more swings you take, the more likely you are to hit. Top producers don't wait for the perfect pitch. They just keep swinging. There's a moment in every sales career where this hits hard. You lose a huge deal. Maybe it was months in the making. You were certain it was in the bag. And then suddenly gone. If your pipeline is empty, that one loss feels like a death blow. But if you've been prospecting consistently, if you've got fresh opportunities waiting, it barely dents you. That's not luck. That's preparation. Fanatical prospectors don't play emotional games with prospecting. They don't overthink it. They don't wait until they feel motivated. They just do it. Day in, day out. Whether they're winning or losing, tired or energized, up or down. They move forward. They prospect because it's who they are, not because of how they feel. And here's the kicker. That consistent effort builds momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence changes the way you talk, the way you pitch, the way you handle objections. Suddenly, prospects respond differently. They hear your certainty, your belief. That magnetic energy? That's not luck either. That's what happens when you've got a full pipeline and nothing to prove. Jeb shares a story here, something every salesperson can relate to. He talks about reps who go months without prospecting, then panic when the pipeline dries up. So they go hard, make a bunch of calls, stir up some interest, maybe even land a few appointments. And right when the pipeline starts filling up again, they stop. They ease up. They think the lucky streak will keep going on its own. And guess what? Doesn't. The luck vanishes just like before. Why? Because they misunderstood what got them the results. They thought it was momentum when it was really consistency. And when consistency breaks, the pipeline slows. The confidence fades. And the cycle of desperation starts all over again. Fanatical prospectors break that cycle. They know the key to predictable success is predictable prospecting. They trust the process. They know that if they keep putting in the effort, the luck will keep finding them. Let's get brutally honest here. Every sales legend you admire? Every quota crusher who seems to have it all figured out? They've dialed more numbers than you. They've faced more rejection. They've been hung up on, ghosted, brushed off, and they kept dialing. They didn't rely on talent. They relied on activity. Massive activity. This chapter isn't a pep talk. It's a call to action. If you want to get lucky more often, there's only one way. Prospect more. Flood the top of your funnel with activity. Get rejected more times than the competition. Be okay with the no's because you know the yes is hiding in there somewhere. And when it comes, people will say you're lucky. Let them. You'll know better. And if you're listening to this and thinking, but I'm already working hard, Jeb would push you harder. He'd ask, are you doing the right kind of hard work? Are you prospecting daily? Are you reaching out to new people every single day? Are you replacing the leads you lose? Are you in control of your activity? Or are you reacting to whatever shows up in your inbox? Because at the end of the day, this chapter doesn't just destroy the myth of sales luck. It replaces it with power. The power of discipline. The power of routine. The power of being the person who creates their luck through raw effort. Fanatical prospectors don't hope for a lucky break. They become the break. Chapter 7. The 7 Mindsets of Fanatical Prospectors. Let's be clear, sales is more than skill. More than talent. More than tools or training. At the core of every top-performing salesperson is a mindset. A way of thinking that refuses to make excuses, refuses to slow down, and refuses to settle. In Chapter 7, Jeb Blount lays out the 7 mindsets that define fanatical prospectors. These are the psychological anchors that separate the elite from everyone else. Adopt them, and your game changes forever. The first mindset: optimism. Fanatical prospectors are obsessed with the belief that success is out there, that people will say yes, that someone somewhere needs exactly what they offer. This isn't blind positivity. It's a refusal to be crushed by rejection, because rejection is part of the game. You'll hear no far more often than yes. And if you let that eat you up, you're done. But the optimistic prospector? They shrug it off. They move forward. They know that no is never personal. It's just part of the math. Optimism keeps them focused on what's ahead, not what's behind. Second mindset: competitiveness. This isn't about beating coworkers. It's about winning the day, every day. Fanatical prospectors compete with themselves. They chase improvement. They want to crush their own numbers. And they hate losing, hate it. Not just losing deals, but losing time, losing momentum, losing control of their pipeline. They treat prospecting like a sport, and every call is a play. They bring energy, intensity, and fire. Because they know, if you're not hungry, someone else is. And that person will take your client, your commission, your spot on the leaderboard. Third, confidence. Now this isn't arrogance. This is earned belief. Fanatical prospectors know their value. They understand their product, their pitch, and themselves. They don't get shaken by gatekeepers, hung up on by decision makers, or intimidated by big titles. Why? Because they've put in the reps. They've handled objections. They've heard it all. And they've still won. Confidence doesn't come from hype, it comes from work. From showing up, over and over, and proving you can survive the battlefield of rejection and still move forward. Fourth, relentlessness. This is the refusal to quit, the ability to keep going when others pause, when the day drags, when the leads dry up, when nothing seems to be landing. Fanatical prospectors keep dialing, keep emailing, keep following up. They don't let bad moods or bad calls stop the flow. They don't wait for inspiration, they act. They understand that volume creates breakthroughs. So they keep pressing, even when it's boring, even when it's frustrating. Relentlessness is about showing up even when no one's watching. And that's what builds unstoppable pipelines. The fifth mindset is thirst for knowledge. Fanatical prospectors are students of the game. They don't just wing it, they study it. They read, listen, watch, and ask. They're always looking for an edge, better openers, stronger subject lines, tighter scripts. They want to know what works. They track their numbers. They learn from their losses. They seek feedback. Because they know stagnation is death. The market evolves. Buyers change. And if you're not improving, you're falling behind. Curiosity isn't optional. It's a weapon. Sixth, systematic thinking. This is huge. Fanatical prospectors don't just rely on bursts of energy or good moods. They create systems, routines they follow daily. They don't wonder what they should do next. They know. They have call blocks scheduled, email campaigns queued, follow-ups locked in. They use CRMs, lists, automation. Everything runs like a machine. Why? Because randomness kills productivity. Systems create predictability. And predictability creates consistent revenue. Without structure, your energy gets scattered. With it, you become lethal. And finally, the seventh mindset, resilience. The world of sales is brutal. There are days you'll feel invisible, weeks when nothing lands, moments where it all feels pointless. But fanatical prospectors? They bounce back. They reset fast. They shake off rejection. They laugh at ghosting. They move on without dragging baggage from call to call. Resilience is their armor. It's what lets them keep prospecting at full power. Even after a week of silence. Even after losing a deal they thought was guaranteed. Now let's pause here, because what Jeb's telling you isn't theoretical. These mindsets are real. They're proven. He's seen them in top producers across industries, across teams, across decades. And what's powerful? You don't have to be born with them. You can build them, train them, choose them daily. This chapter is a mirror. It asks you to look inward and ask, do you think like a fanatical prospector? Are you optimistic about what's possible? Or already defeated before you start? Are you relentless or reactive? Confident or hesitant? Systematic or scattered? The beauty is that you don't need perfection. You just need alignment. You need to start seeing yourself as someone who owns the outcome, who doesn't wait, doesn't wish, doesn't hope. Someone who acts. Someone who replaces fear with action, excuses with habits, and rejection with data. Because in the world of fanatical prospecting, it's not about having some magic charm or being naturally good at sales. It's about grit, hunger, discipline, and mindset. Always mindset. Chapter 8, the 30-day rule. There's a simple truth in sales that most reps learn the hard way. It's ruthless, it's real, and it doesn't care how talented you are or how many sales tricks you've mastered. It's called the 30-day rule, and if you ignore it, you pay. Every time. Here's how it works. What you do in the next 30 days will determine your income for the next 90. Read that again. Let it settle in. Because this isn't motivational fluff. It's a law of sales gravity. Prospecting activity today is the seed. Closed deals are the harvest. But there's always a delay. You can't plant nothing and expect something to show up later. Jeb Blount delivers it like a slap in the face, because that's what a lot of reps need. You stop prospecting now? You might still coast for a few weeks. You'll close the deals already in your pipeline. You'll feel fine, maybe even great. But wait, when that 30-day mark hits and there's nothing left to close, no new deals in the pipeline, you'll feel it. Your calendar will be empty. Your phone will go silent. You'll look at your numbers and realize you're in trouble. The 30-day rule is relentless. It rewards the disciplined. It punishes the lazy. There's no hiding from it. No shortcut. No workaround. Just keeps ticking. And the scary part? The damage from inactivity doesn't show up immediately. That's why it's so dangerous. You feel like you're getting away with it until you're not. Jeb tells the story of the phantom pipeline. It's the illusion salespeople create when they're focused only on closing. They stop prospecting, stop replacing, stop filling the top of the funnel. But they've got a few solid deals working, so they think they're fine. They're not. Those deals close or die, and then reality smacks them. The pipeline isn't real. It's a ghost. And now they're panicking. Fanatical prospectors live by the 30-day rule. It's burned into their habits. They don't let success lull them into comfort. They prospect when they're busy. They prospect when they're crushing quota. They prospect when they don't feel like prospecting. Because they know the truth. If you don't prospect today, you will suffer later. And this isn't about chasing some magical number. It's about consistency. If you want to earn consistently, you must prospect consistently. Every day. No days off. No excuses. No letting momentum become a reason to stop feeding the beast. Think of it like this: your sales career is a machine. Prospecting is the fuel. You don't get to wait until the tank is empty to refuel. By then it's too late. The engine's already sputtering. So you fuel every day. Even when you don't want to. Especially when you don't want to. And here's the beauty of it. When you obey the 30-day rule, your life gets easier. You eliminate desperation. You stay in control. You get to choose your clients instead of begging. You get to hold your pricing. You get to walk away from bad deals. Because your pipeline is full. You've got options. And options create power. There's a moment Jeb describes. Something every salesperson has felt. That sick, panicked feeling when you realize your deal died and there's nothing left behind it. It's not just stress. It's fear. And that fear makes you do dumb things. You discount. You chase bad leads. You try to sell to people who shouldn't be buying. It erodes your professionalism. And all of it could have been avoided with a few more prospecting calls a day. So how do you beat the 30-day rule? Simple. Make prospecting non-negotiable. Schedule it. Protect it. Don't let meetings or distractions eat it up. Treat it like your most sacred appointment of the day. Because it is. The hour you spend prospecting today is the paycheck you cash 3 months from now. Jeb pushes this hard because he's seen it play out 1,000 times. The best reps don't let emotions dictate their activity. They don't chase only what's hot. They chase what's next. They plant seeds constantly. Because they know the deals they need next quarter start with conversations today. And if you're behind, if your pipeline's already flat, then you go hard. You prospect like your job depends on it, because it does. You treat every day like a sprint. You make the calls. Send the emails. Hit the social DMs. Knock on the doors. You do the work. No delay. No whining. No waiting for things to pick up. You pick it up. The 30-day rule is unforgiving. Yes, but it's also your friend. It gives you structure. It gives you a timeline. Tells you exactly what to expect. If your results are down now, look back 30 days. What were you doing? If you were coasting, now you're paying. If you were grinding, now you're eating. Every day is a down payment on your future revenue. Fanatical prospectors understand this. And they never forget it. Chapter 9. The Law of Familiarity. There's a moment in every salesperson's career when things start to feel too comfortable. You know the names in your pipeline. You've got a few strong leads. You've talked to them enough times that you stop chasing new ones. Why push harder when you've got these warm, familiar prospects just sitting there? But here's the problem. Familiarity can kill you. It seduces you into laziness. It makes you cling to what feels easy instead of doing what actually brings results. In this chapter, Jeb Blount breaks down one of the most dangerous traps in sales, the law of familiarity. And it goes like this: the more familiar the prospect, the more likely you are to waste time on them. Fanatical prospectors know this law intimately. They see it happening all around them. Sales reps spend hours, sometimes days, chasing the same handful of prospects, having the same conversations, convincing themselves that if they just follow up one more time, the deal will close. But in reality, that deal is dead. It's cold. It's stalled. And every minute you spend on that comfortable lead is a minute you're not spending filling your pipeline with fresh, qualified opportunities. Familiarity creates emotional attachment. You start rooting for the deal. You believe that your time and effort already invested has to pay off. You fall into the sunk cost trap. You're no longer objective, you're emotionally entangled. And that's where you start losing the game. Jeb doesn't hold back, he calls it out for what it is. You're chasing ghosts. And the worst part? You know it. Deep down you feel it. But familiarity feels safe. New prospecting feels risky. So you stall. You procrastinate. You waste hours massaging deals that aren't going anywhere. Top producers, on the other hand, don't fall for it. They know that the pipeline must be fed with new blood. They know that warm leads can go cold, that friendly buyers can disappear, that no matter how good a deal looks, nothing matters until the contract is signed. So they prospect, even when things look good, even when the calendar's full, even when their CRM is glowing with highly interested leads. They don't let familiarity cloud their focus. There's a story Jeb tells here, something that hits hard. A rep, let's call him Mike, was sitting on 5 great opportunities. Big deals. Strong conversations. Multiple touch points. He stopped prospecting. I'm close, he said. These are ready to go. 2 weeks later, 2 went dark. 1 ghosted. 1 went to a competitor. The last one? Budget freeze. Mike had nothing left. Why? Because he bet everything on what was familiar and stopped feeding the machine. And that's the lesson. Prospecting is not about feeling good. It's about doing what works. The law of familiarity doesn't just kill your time. It kills your edge. When you stop chasing new conversations, you stop sharpening your skills. You stop adapting. You get soft. And soft salespeople get crushed. So what do fanatical prospectors do instead? They treat every prospect like a number. Not in a cold, heartless way, but in a logical, disciplined way. They qualify fast. They move on when the energy drops. They follow up, sure, but they don't camp out. They don't babysit maybes. They don't pray for interest to reignite. They push forward. Always forward. Because here's the secret. New prospects create momentum. Every new conversation lights a spark. It makes you sharper, more alert, hungrier. You start hearing patterns again. You start solving problems in real time. You get dangerous again. And the irony? The more new conversations you generate, the more the right familiar prospects will come back around, because now you're in demand. You've got options. You're not clinging. You're not desperate. And prospects can feel that. Confidence is magnetic. Desperation repels. Jeb puts it bluntly. You're either prospecting or you're begging. So here's your wake-up call. Go into your CRM. Look at the people you've been nurturing for too long. The ones you keep emailing. The ones you keep saying, just one more follow-up. Be honest. Are they buying? Or are they just familiar? Then do what fanatical prospectors do. Clear the dead wood. Make room. Go get new names. Make new dials. Fire up your outreach engine again. And don't stop. Because if you don't fight the law of familiarity, it will own you. It will trick you into believing you're working when you're just circling the same tired runway. Break free. Fill the funnel. Stay uncomfortable. That's where the growth is. Chapter 10: The Universal Law of Need. Need is a funny thing. It can make you strong or it can destroy you. In sales, it almost always does the latter. In Chapter 10, Jeb Blount introduces one of the most painful truths in the profession: the universal law of need. It's brutal. It's unforgiving. And it doesn't care how good you think you are. The law says the more you need the sale, the less likely you are to get it. Let that sit for a second. The more you need the deal, the more repellent you become to your prospect. It's counterintuitive, right? You'd think being highly motivated would make you perform better. But in reality, that desperate energy leaks through your voice, your tone, your body language. You start pushing too hard. You get weird. You start talking too much. You fumble. You follow up too soon. You lose your edge. You lose your cool. Why? Because desperation stinks. Prospects can smell it a mile away. And once they sense that you're needy, game over. You've lost all leverage. See, when you're needy, you're not qualifying anymore. You're not diagnosing the problem. You're not controlling the conversation. You're begging. And when you beg, you position yourself beneath the buyer. You surrender your power. You kill the sale. But let's be real. It's easy to fall into this trap. You hit a dry spell. Deals are slow. The bills are stacking. You're staring at your pipeline and it's a ghost town. Now that one prospect you've been chasing looks like a lifeline, you start putting all your energy into that one deal. You overnurture. You overthink. You say yes to anything. And just like that, you've handed your dignity and your commission to someone who hasn't even committed yet. This is what the universal law of need exposes. It tells you sales is a psychological game. When you act like you need the deal, you create tension, and not the good kind. You make people uncomfortable, and uncomfortable people don't buy. So how do you escape this death spiral? Jeb is clear. The antidote to need is a full pipeline. When you have options, when your funnel is loaded, you stop clinging to deals. You follow up with confidence. You speak with clarity. You say no when the deal stinks. You don't discount just to get a yes. You walk into every sales conversation knowing that whether they buy or not, you'll be fine. That confidence is power. It changes the energy. Changes you. Fanatical prospectors never let their pipeline run dry. Because they know the second it does, need creeps in, and need ruins everything. They don't just prospect when things are slow. They prospect when things are great. They know that success creates complacency, and complacency invites desperation down the line. The lesson here is ruthless. If you want to sell from a place of strength, you must prospect from a place of discipline. You don't wait until you need leads. You build them every day. You stay ahead of the law. Because once you cross that line, once you start needing the sale, it's too late. Your mindset's already cracked. Jeb shares a story about a guy named Phil. Star performer. Crushed his number in Q2. Got cocky. Took his foot off the gas. July and August? No prospecting. None. September rolls around, pipeline's empty. Now Phil's sweating. His closes are down. He's leaning hard on a single prospect to save his quarter. And what happens? He chokes. Pushes too hard. Gets ignored. Deal dies. Phil went from king of the leaderboard to the guy begging for callbacks. Not because he lacks skill, but because he violated the universal law of need. And here's the thing. This law doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care how charismatic or charming you are. You break it, you pay. So what do you do with this? You stay aggressive. You never coast. You keep the pipeline fat and full. You follow the 30-day rule like your career depends on it, because it does. You prospect with the same urgency whether you're at 50% of your goal or 150%. You detach from individual deals. You stop falling in love with any one prospect. Because when you're sitting on 20 fresh conversations, you don't need anyone. You're free. You're dangerous. You're magnetic. And prospects feel it. That's what fanatical prospecting gives you. Freedom from the fear. Power over the panic. Distance from the desperation. The sale is important, but you are more important. And when you believe that, when you stop acting like you need the deal, you'll find that the deal starts needing you. Chapter 11 Time. The Great Equalizer. There's one thing every salesperson gets in equal supply: rookies, veterans, top closers, struggling reps. No matter your experience, your talent, or your hustle, the clock doesn't care. You get 24 hours in a day, just like everyone else. And that's where this chapter hits hard. Time is the great equalizer. It's the only truly level playing field in sales. You can't buy more of it. You can't borrow it. You can't stockpile it for later. You either use it or you lose it. Period. Jeb Blount doesn't waste time sugarcoating it. He opens this chapter with a punch. You are either managing your time with intention, or your time is managing you into mediocrity. The difference between average salespeople and top producers isn't talent or knowledge. It's how they treat time. Fanatical prospectors? They worship the clock. They guard their hours like pit bulls. They know exactly what their time is worth, and they refuse to spend it on anything that doesn't drive revenue. Their calendars don't just fill up. They're built with purpose. Every block of time has a job. Every minute is assigned. This chapter isn't just about managing time. It's about dominating it. And it starts with what Jeb calls the golden hours. That sacred slice of the day, usually between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., when your prospects are most likely to pick up the phone, answer your emails, engage in a real conversation. That window is your lifeline, your money-making time. That's when deals begin. That's when the pipeline grows. So why, Jeb asks, are so many reps wasting that window on admin tasks, CRM cleanup, coffee breaks, or scrolling through LinkedIn pretending to be productive, because they're undisciplined, because they treat prospecting like a background task instead of the lifeblood of their job. Here's the fix. Protect the golden hours like your paycheck depends on it, because it does. Fanatical prospectors schedule their prospecting first. Everything else gets fit in around it. Not the other way around. They build call blocks. They turn off distractions. They go dark on email. They put their phone in airplane mode if they have to. Because during the golden hours, there is one job: generate conversations that fill the pipeline. You want to know why some reps make triple the money of others with the same resources? It's not luck. It's not some magic closing line. It's time. They invest their time. Every day. Relentlessly. Intentionally. Now, outside of the golden hours, you've got the gray zone. That's when you do your prep work. Research. Build lists. Plan. Send follow-ups. That's fine. But don't mix the two. If you're prospecting during admin time, or doing admin during prospecting time, you're bleeding productivity. You're sabotaging your own momentum. Jeb puts it plainly: you can't close what you don't open. And you can't open anything if you're not consistently using your time to start conversations. Another killer mindset he warns about? The "I'm too busy closing" excuse. Reps who think they've earned the right to slow down their prospecting because they've got deals working. But guess what? Deals close, fall through, get delayed, or vanish. If you didn't keep prospecting while closing, your pipeline just dried up. The sales you're counting on next month? Gone. Fanatical prospectors live in a rhythm. Prospect. Follow up. Close. Repeat. They never stop one gear to spin the other. Everything moves always. And here's the twist. Time isn't just about discipline, it's about freedom. When you control your time, you control your destiny. You're not reactive. You're proactive. You don't wait for leads, you go get them. You don't hope for commissions, you engineer them. Want more income? Manage your time better. Want less stress? Build prospecting habits that eliminate last-minute panic. Want to win consistently? Show up to your calendar like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. And if you're thinking, I just don't have time to prospect, Jeb shuts that down fast. You do have the time. You're just spending it wrong. Track your hours for a week. You'll see it. Dead time. Busy work. Pointless meetings. Double work. Distractions. Social media scroll holes. It's all there, stealing your money. Take back your time. Reclaim it. Prioritize it. Fanatical prospectors don't find time, they make time. There's a quote Jeb drops in this chapter that cuts deep. Amateurs waste time. Professionals invest it. That's the dividing line. The clock is ticking. And the top earners? They hear it louder than anyone.